Welcome to this edition of the ESS BIZTOOLS podcast. I hope that you're having a great day and that you're confidently looking at 2022-23. What are the issues that are likely to affect you in your accounting, bookkeeping, business advisory, or Chief Financial Officer services supplying to SME businesses? What is going to happen during this year? The Accounting Market Pulse report, which has been produced for the last 7 years by the Commonwealth Bank, was released in late May 2022. It contains some interesting comments that apply to small and medium-sized accounting firms. I think some of the comments within the report are only targeted at accountancy firms who are servicing the big end of town, listed public companies or companies contemplating trying to raise capital as part of an initial public offer. But nevertheless, it's once again a very interesting report, and I would suggest that every accountant in public practice should be reading this report to get an understanding of where the accounting industry is headed. Even though some of the comments at this stage may be more applicable to the big end of town, it's amazing how quickly some of those ideas, those issues, those ways of doing business become part of the SME market and therefore very applicable to smaller and medium-sized accounting firms. So let's start our wander through what was in the Accounting Market Pulse by starting with one of their major issues, the worsening talent shortage. I think it's very important for accountants to be offering interesting work that will challenge younger accountants so that your firm is attractive to them to join you. In November 2021, in one of these podcasts, I had a conversation with Andrew Geddes, who I think is a guru of the Australian accounting industry. We discussed an article that had appeared in Accountants Daily a few weeks earlier that talked about over 70% of employees of accountancy firms in Australia looking for better opportunities. So I think it's an appropriate time to revisit what I discussed with Andrew Geddes at that time. Andrew outlined that partners of accountancy firms and business advisory firms need to be far more aware of what's happening. It's no use saying there's not enough young accountants, because Geddes said there is, based on his experience as a university lecturer. He said there's enough of them, but they've chosen not to work in the profession. Why? Because young accountants are claiming that all they get to do is compliance work only. Compliance work only. And they're expected to achieve an 80% productivity. And they're basically saying that's not for me. What Andrew Geddes is arguing is that accountancy firms need to deliver a mix of work experience to younger accountants to get them better attuned for what is happening in businesses. It's not just taxation. And in lots of ways, the taxation considerations is at the end of the journey. What happens at the beginning of the journey? What happens in the businesses themselves? That should be of vital interest to the inquiring mind that a young accountant does have. Andrew Geddes's diagnosis was that we've got to teach them, the younger accountants. You've got to expose them to real life situations. And that means having them involved in meetings that partners and directors and senior managers are having with clients, with the CEO or the CFO if they have a CFO, if they're large enough to have a CFO, and with the board of directors or board of advice. I think the ideal situation is what banks used to do when there were bank managers and assistant bank managers. Invariably, they would have a younger accountant or a banker in the room with them. And that person's job was to be the scribe. They would be taking down the notes, especially any action that was going to be required from that particular discussion. That would be an ideal way for you to give your younger accountants some interesting work to work on. So Geddes was saying you need to involve your younger accountants with projects and with the clients. Don't hide them. And he was quite emphatic that you've got to start this now, this afternoon, because this is the greatest challenge at the moment in the accountancy industry. And that was on the 5th of November, 2021. So to give them this interesting work, what are you going to do? What percentage of your fees are you currently earning from non-compliant services? And I know that can be a challenge for many of you. But the whole point of today's discussion is going to be to try to throw some light on what you might be able to do to extend your range of services. I think one of the most interesting assignments that you could be looking at introducing, not just to train your younger accountants, but to offer great value-adding services to your clients, will be to proactively introduce predictive accounting. Now, predictive accounting covers the pre-planning for what is going to happen in a business in the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. And I'm about to do one of those for one of my consulting firm clients, actually. We're going to try to project forward for the next 3 to 5 years. This is a company that already has a turnover of about $25 million, and in that period wants to grow substantially to somewhere between $50 million and $100 million. They're currently selling into about 50 countries around the world, and they want to increase that to 80 to 100. Just start thinking about some of the issues. Supply chain, negotiating with people in overseas countries who will distribute the product, sell it, who are going to store it, who are going to ship it, and what's involved in the marketing and selling side of things. Now, you just don't produce a budget for a business just looking at the end financial, which unfortunately is where many accountants start. You need to go way back to the beginning and say, who are going to be the customers? What is the stock that they're buying? How are we going to get it to them? And so on. So the concept of predicting accounting, budgets, cash flow forecasts, preliminary planning for both of those, projected balance sheets, and then sitting down and making sure the full team is educated in what the plan is very important. great activities for your younger accountants to be involved in. And you must have some clients that you could promote this service to. Perhaps you need to be talking to them and asking them. But this is not taking last year's figures and adding 2 or 3%. That was the old, incorrect way to do budgets and cash flow forecasts. You need to go back to the nitty-gritty and analyze it from the beginning. So you need to plan it. Now we have a special webinar on this Thursday, 28th of July at 11:30 a.m. AEST. It's been presented by the Academy of CPAs, Certified Predictive Accountants, that I'm a founder of. And this webinar has been presented in conjunction with Beyond Accounting Technologies, the managing director of which is Paul Barnaby, a very experienced chartered accountant, and Plan Guru, the world's leading producer of budget and cash flow forecast software packages for medium-sized businesses. To register, please go to our website, www.essbiztools.com.au, and you can click onto the registration form that is prominently displayed on our home page. And I look forward to being able to talk to you then. What I've just suggested on budgets and cash flow forecasts is one way of offering interesting and challenging services to your clients. Another is offering the virtual chief financial officer services that I know some firms are experimenting with and others are showing some interest in. Well, I think you all should be looking very seriously at this potential, this great potential range of service. In the webinar that I just spoke about on Thursday, the 28th of July, we have organized an American accountant to participate. So he's going to direct link in on that evening for him, day for us, to talk about the conversion he has made into his 20-year-old accountancy firm to be providing virtual CFO services. He now has 150 clients who are paying an average of $80,000 US per annum to access their virtual CFO services. And they're offering these services weekly, bi-monthly or monthly to their clients. What's included? Well, they do performance reviews. They do key performance indicators. Obviously, they produce budgets and cash flow forecasts and projected balance sheets. They do working capital monitoring and reporting to the CEO on things like debtors, stock, work in progress, creditors. They analyze the bank position and make representations to the bank on any changes that might be necessary. They look for government grants that the business might be able to apply for. They're ever watchful of the business funding. Does the business need to secure new loan funds or to raise capital or whatever? And they coordinate the monthly business review meeting, prepare the minutes, the follow-up. And they look at specialist items like research and development, whereby they might be able to bring their skills. So you can find out more about this on Thursday, the 28th of July. Emerging areas was discussed in the Accounting Market Pulse, and they talked about digital transformation. And I believe that what I've just described to you as the theme of the webinar on Thursday is a great way for small and medium-sized firms to be getting involved in the concept of emerging areas via digital transformation. The report also considered other matters such as cybersecurity, and you might be interested in that, and hopefully you've looked at your own firm's position and maybe you've developed skills that you could now offer this to your clients to help them on this journey. ESS BIZTOOLS is also announcing later this week a great new initiative to you to encourage you to seriously look at these range of services. We're offering a travel voucher to you to take you and your family on a short holiday if you spend more than $2,000, including GST in a subscription with ESS BIZTOOLS. Please go to our website to see the full details, and then I look forward to hearing from you. You can ring me 1-800-232-088 for a discussion on the products and services developed by ESS BIZTOOLS that will be of assistance in your firm. And we can set up a Zoom meeting whereby I can go through and have a review with you of who your clients are, who your team is, what products and services you're currently supplying to them, and then give you my thoughts on what the new services that I think you could introduce. So please go to our website to look at the material pertaining to this special offer that ESS BIZTOOLS is making at this time. Next week, our podcast interview is going to feature Andrew Geddes, where I'm going to ask Andrew to comment on his thoughts of what's going to happen in the accounting industry during 2022-23. I think you'll find that very interesting as he overviews the accounting market from his perception of a 40-year involvement in the Australian accounting industry, looking at issues as to where accountants are going, what's going to be involved in raising capital for growing companies, and a lot of other things. So that's next week. So thank you very much for your interest in what's happening with ESS BIZTOOLS and in particular the accounting industry. I look forward to talking to you again next week when my special guest will be Andrew Geddes. Have a great day. Goodbye.